Hello there, and welcome to my first proper speedrun upload of the 1.0 release. I grabbed the Dark Quartz and Priestess's Veil. I'm going to destroy the first two skulls from the Fox to get a head start on fragments. My strategy is to find a skull that's going to either do massive damage to enemies to clear rooms or big boss damage, and none of the common skulls or any of the first skulls really fit that bill. So you will see me take a whole bunch of skull rooms and destroying the skulls from adventurer fights until I get to about 100. I think 100 fragments so that a unique can be made legendary is a good start. It's not too hard to get an extra 30 in case you find a rare. But other than that, I'm just making my way through, destroying these heads. The build options kind of depend on what items that I find. So ideally, I want to get Mage's Necklace since I'm starting with Skull. Little Skull with Mage's Necklace I think is actually better than just about any of the other starting Skull options. I really do. And I wouldn't be surprised if others in the community start using that as like their start to the run as well. But for now, it's definitely what I enjoy. If I start finding a lot of magic items and options, I want to try and find things like Arc Lich, Reaper, Alchemist, skulls like that. Ones that I know can do very strong magic damage that have good utility for dealing with rooms and bosses. If physical, however, well, let's just say I don't want to get physical items and physical builds, but as we'll see in this run, sometimes magic happens that you didn't expect. I'm selling off my Dark Quartz to grab the Weapon Master quintessence there. Kind of a rare find in the first shop, I'm not gonna lie, getting a really strong quintessence. I would say that if you can find a strong quint early on, it's probably better than finding just a good item early on, like the insignia that was in the shop that I was contemplating getting before I noticed Weapon Master. Coming into the Paladin Boy here, if I had been a tiny bit smarter, I may have saved Weapon Master for his ultimate cast, but luckily I was able to stop it. I don't want him swinging around because I can't maintain good damage on him while he's swinging, as opposed to, say, the sword guy who you can just quickly dash through his attack and you're fine. Breaking the skull after the adventurer fight, and moving on into one of the newer rooms. This room's kind of annoying, I'm not gonna lie. A lot of back and forth, but not too much of a problem for Little Bone. Having a ranged option is pretty nice. Grabbing the money, taking more skull rooms. Like I said, more skull rooms. Here I'm going to use the quintessence. This is where the horizontal benefit of Weapon Master comes in. I was able to wipe out those guys and quickly move on down here, instead of just dealing with them. I'm trying to lure these assassins into the barrels and pop the barrels to get rid of them. The teleporting around, smacking me, nah. I don't want any of that. I'm okay with dodging that. Let's break Warrior and move into the shop. Here we have a bunch of half-decent items, but I'm going to do a reroll here, and I see Thief Armor. Going to sell Ring of Wind. Ring of Wind is a good item. I would have liked to keep it, but Thief Armor is too clutch. Pop Weapon Master, wipe out these guys, get rid of the big dude. I don't need to deal with giant health bars. I want to get those big guys out of the way. Thief Armor is just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic for just about every build in the game, I'm not gonna lie. It did receive a small nerf in the official release. It now has a 0.5 second internal cooldown on it. Before, every single attack, regardless of how fast or slow, was triggering shurikens to shoot out of your body. You can see them right there. But now there's a small internal cooldown, but it doesn't stop it from being a wonderful item. We have found this other Fox Demon NPC that just gave us a buff for extra physical attack, and then we find the standard issue sword in the chest right after. It is at this point that I realize, oh no, it might have to be a physical run. We have Thief Armor, we have Weapon Master, the sword, and a permanent physical buff. Oh dear. Coming into Yggdrasil, ideally I'd want to have either Mage's Necklace or Thief Armor for this, so having Thief Armor is wonderful. You can really see the damage coming into play. It is worth noting, if you don't see me avoiding a lot of attacks... Oh, shoutouts to the follow, ignore that sound. If you don't see me avoiding too many attacks, it's because I want to use my life bar as a resource for time. I'm okay with getting hit. Yggdrasil's going to give me a health orb after the fight anyway. There's no such thing as me doing a no-hit speedrun. Oh, there's the execution axe. Another physical item. Definitely a physical build. But the idea is I want to use my life bar basically as a time resource. Dodging takes time, especially if the boss is doing a very big, long-winded attack, and me moving out the way is going to cost me DPS. Nah. If I'm confident that I can survive, then I am definitely going to take that gamble and get hit. And here we have the Harpy NPC that gives us, I think that was 25 bone fragments. There's Alchemist. I destroyed Alchemist. Now, hang on. If it was any other run where I didn't already have a whole bunch of physical build items, I probably would have taken Alchemist, to be honest. I would have taken him. But not the case. This is physical. I'll break him and start collecting bones. In this room here, just use the traps on the floor to try and destroy these guys. There's a lot of traps down here. They do a lot of damage. It speeds the room up. It's already a bit of a slow room to deal with. Don't make it any harder on yourself. Abuse those traps. There's Mage Necklace. Excellent. The linchpin of a Skull run has been discovered. Gonna throw Weapon Master out, get rid of the big maid. I don't need any more NPCs being summoned. But Little Skull, if you've seen my Skull Only Skeleton King achievement run, or any other run really where the person is using Skull only, chances are he's going to have Mage's Necklace. It is, just in my opinion, Skull's best item for him, along with Mana Bone. It really is that good. But since we have Thief Armor as well, we're doubling down on the amazingness. Speaking of amazingness, Shadow Knights. The game is just confirming, yo, this is going to be a physical run. I need to sell off, make some hard decisions and sell off some of the weaker items, not gonna lie. I didn't want to get rid of them both necessarily, but Shadow Knights is, as a legendary quintessence, it's going to be a very hard carry for us. It's going to do a lot of damage, offer us a little bit of protection. That shield that it gives you is very good. And at the same time, it has amazing horizontal damage. Like, actually ridiculously good horizontal damage. And it is now at this point that the hunt for a strong physical skull is on. The build is set up. I need to get something strong that does big physical damage, that can kill bosses quickly, that can also deal with rooms if possible. Coming into the second adventurer fight, I'm going to show off why Shadow Knights is so good. Fight's over. Fight's over. I'm going to grab those two health orbs and be very cheeky and destroy the Kalan Recruit. The 11th Finger of Lightning item that was there is magic, and we already have probably the best quintessence that we're going to keep for the entire run at this point. But yes, I waited deliberately for the Priest Girl to teleport. If at the start of an adventurer fight, the Priest Girl is there, the one that heals, if you stand on top of her, her first action will pretty much always be teleporting away. She doesn't want to be near you. So you can kind of bait her to move away and then fire off your attacks accordingly, because there's nothing worse than having her teleport right before you do your big attack and she completely avoids it. And the skull is Predator. There we go. Grabbed it without any hesitation. The skull has been discovered. This is a fantastic skull for both boss killing and for room clearing. And he does come with a moveset that helps facilitate both. This whirlwind here, carve through enemies, do big damage. It's fantastic. We're also very close to having 100 fragments to upgrade him to legendary already. This is where the strength of my taking skull fragments in the beginning of the run is being shown. It's paying off. If I had been taking item rooms, I may have some better items, but I'd still be stuck with a weaker skull. And I think having Predator outperforms a few extra decent items, unless you're doing a skull-only run, of course. But at the moment, I'm really happy with how this run is turning out. Activate Shadow Knights, deal with the bottom of the screen while I get rid of this orb-tossing dude. My fireballs finish off that mage guy, move into the next shop. Do a quick re-roll. The insignia. The third insignia shown in the run so far. The game is being so generous by giving me not one or two, but 3 chances to take it, and I will take it on my third. Because we've spent a lot of our run doing skull rooms and taking the skull destruction options, we haven't had great income. But now that we have the skull that we want, and are very close to having enough fragments, we can kind of prioritize item rooms and cash. And the insignia is a great first step to getting some extra cash. Before the end of the run, as my item pool starts to fill up, I can just sell it off and be done with it. But for the meantime, always welcome. Item is Dark Spirit Shade, grabbed immediately. Now Shade, despite being magic, does do passive damage. Not only himself, but he gives us the fairy tale inscription, little floating orb that's behind me that does zap enemies once in a while. But also Necromancy inscription is on Shade, which is also a big help for dealing with rooms. Overall, I'm definitely taking him. I'm not gonna say no to Shade at this point. Now this room right here, this is a nightmare for a speedrun, and otherwise I would say most people probably want to just reset here. But given that the run already has our skull, we've got some great items, Shadow Knights, I can't reset here. What I do recommend is what I've just done right there. Try and knock as many enemies off their platforms as possible, get them all down on the bottom floor, and then use the traps to take care of them. Ninja, destroy that. We now have enough fragments. Fantastic. I can now ignore skull rooms and skull rewards for the rest of the run. But yes, having Skull with Mage Necklace in that bouncy room did help take care of some of them, as well as the traps on the floor. Highly recommended. Now, my strategy at the start here for the sisters is unchanged from my strategy at the end of Early Access. I want to sit in a corner of the room, spam my Skull Toss and teleportability to spawn as many fireballs as possible. Even though it's not a very strong magic run, these still do lots of damage. As soon as the sister in the back that I see there has landed up next to the big guy, and the one sister falls from the sky, I know she's tagged in and will be in for a bit. Rather than deal with the sisters swapping back and forth, I want to just nuke the first sister down as you saw, get her out of the way, because this Shadow Phase sister, being the only one left now, will stay in and fight me one-on-one constantly. I can do more consistent damage against her by fighting normally than against the two sisters swapping back and forth. So I'd very much rather get rid of one sister and just push straight to Phase 2 immediately. In my experience, trying to focus one sister down without bursting her and without using your quintessence and all of your big damage, and then saving it all for the second phase isn't as worth it, since the Phase 2 sister likes to do her teleport into the sky dive attack more often. She tends to avoid damage more often, so I'd rather just burn the first sister down. We grabbed the Hunter's Boots item on the way out that lets us drop a arrow on enemies whenever we dash, which does physical damage, by the way. And we've upgraded Predator to Legendary. He is now a mincing machine and will do a great deal of damage to everything in his path. Summon Shadow Knights. Get rid of these big ogres. I know that extras are going to spawn after the first one. I'd rather just get rid of the big health enemies with the help of my quintessence. Wind Armor. We have mobility. I always say that having at least one good mobility item like Wind Armor or Sylphid Wings is vital. And here you see, you can even hear me audibly gasp in the background. I've made a mistake. I haven't kept track of where Skull's head was while fighting. It's one of the biggest problems that you can run into, which is not knowing where Skull's head flies off at once you throw it. And I somehow managed to teleport downstairs and trigger a whole bunch of extra enemies that I would not have needed to fight otherwise. Probably cost me, what, a good 10 seconds or so, just as an estimate? I didn't keep an eye on my timer, but you can see how much time I lost if you go back and take a look at the timer. Now, right here, I can summon Shadow Knights and actually make up time a little bit by having Shadow Knights quickly nuke that entire auto-scrolling section and very quickly move through this room. That's a much faster clear on this room than it expected. But thanks to Shadow Knights having fantastic horizontal on its attack, we're able to get through there nice and quick. In rooms like this, I would normally not care too much about getting rid of the summoners, but because I can't leave the room until all the basic enemies are dead, I'll just kill them off anyway. It's quicker to kill them than to wait for them to summon the golem. If you have this kind of damage, Act 3 Adventurer fight, same strategy as the sisters. I'm trying to get as many fireballs on the screen and bait the sister into teleporting and then activating my quintessence and nuking them all down. Quick fight is a good fight. Some actually really good options on display here. I'm going to get rid of the bow, since I'm not really doing any ranged outside of Little Bone, and his strategy of using fireballs and throwing his head will only take us so far. This is dominantly a physical run, so I'd rather prioritize, at this point, my money and my physical damage. That's kind of my entire objective at this point. Deal with the room nice and quickly, grab our cash, and leave. I'm now taking only money rooms if possible. I missed my dodge there, that's sad. That's sad. And nuke it all, obliterate it. They actually died a lot quicker and easier than I expected. I should have swapped there to avoid that damage from the ogre, but well, doesn't matter. Making more quick decisions. I don't even know why I stopped to think about Vampire Fang. Get rid of the Ice Scale Spaulders. Fantastic. We're making good progress. The fact that I'm not taking too much damage means I'm saving money that I would otherwise spend on food. I said in the beginning that using your life as a way of making time, I still stand by that. You'll see me dodge some attacks, but I think at this point it's more a matter of enemies are just dying so quickly, they're not getting much chance to hurt me. Whereas in most other runs, you'll definitely see me just face tank a lot of hits, as long as I can kill them before they kill me. More slow trap rooms to have to deal with. And there you see me just taking some hits from the ogre. I don't care. I'm in the middle of using my special skill. I want to finish using it. I want you to die now. Swap in. Deal with these guys. Prioritize the big dudes. The necromancy and the fireballs from Mage's Necklace doing wonderful work. Grudge Stone right there is a magic item. I don't want it. I don't care. Let's sell it and move on towards the Chimera fight. At 16 minutes going into the Chimera fight, I'm happy with this. I'm really happy with this. We're making some good time, despite it being a physical build, am I right? Typical Chimera fight, I want to stay up close to its face and hit it with lots of big damage, and kind of just ignore everything else about how this fight works. For the most part, one of the changes that Chimera did get was extra pools of slime do fall from the ceiling, making it a bit riskier. Jump up and dodge as he comes into the slam, dodge through the poison, and I can just sit here and be a bully. A nice fast Chimera fight. Look at that, only 17 minutes now. That was done in less than a minute, which is really good. And Sylphid Wings, fantastic. Get rid of the Hunter's Boots. I'm not too fussed about that little bit of passive damage. The Sylphid Wings item is a massive increase to mobility and speed. I will now be triple jumping my way across the map. Along with Wind Cloak, we have peak mobility. Peak mobility. Act 4, let's go. Look at this. Dashing, jumping, skull tossing. With the help of Little Skull, we now have movement. Swap into Predator and get some of that big boy damage in there. Carve our way through. I'm still not used to all of the spawns in Act 4. So you'll see me try and progress and move forward and not notice that enemies are spawning behind me at times. It's still a learning procedure. Now, all those statue guys are going to spawn there. Throw out the Shadow Knights. They've got pretty good armor and life on them, so I'd rather just get rid of them ASAP. Come in here and... oh, he's just barely out of range to get finished off by my my attack. And here you'll see me face tanking more hits from enemies. I really don't mind at this point. I just want them to die before they become too problematic for me. Getting stuck in Predator's animation there. You'll see me start to adapt later on to how much of the attack I need to do before I can cancel it and not get stuck in an animation. You see me glancing here at Broken Mana Engine and making the decision to sell Thorny Boots. Mana Engine reduces the cooldown of all my abilities by 30%. The extra effects of Broken Mana Engine are kind of negligible. The Mana Tech Inscription is nice, but that 30% reduction in cooldown means that Predator is going to be able to mow through enemies just that little bit faster. I see that as... it's not real math, but I see it as, okay, that means it's 30% more spamming that I can do, which means enemies are going to die just that much quicker. That's not real math. That's just the way I see it in my head. This room, coming down here and dealing with these guys very quickly. You can see Necromancy playing a big role here. Because in Act 4 you can get spots where there are lots and lots of little enemies that are basically just fodder, like these guys right here. But thankfully, that also means that they're great fodder for Necromancy to do wonderful things. You'll see me swap back and forth into Skul so that I can get Predator's swap-in effect, where he slows enemies down and causes them to take some extra damage. It's very useful for dealing with those larger enemies, the big spear guys, the sword guys, and especially those orb casters, the guys that spray out the bullet hell orbs. Very useful for getting rid of these guys in a hurry. You'll see me swap into Skul before the Adventurer fight. It's the big Paladin guy. Not a very desirable hero, but then again, the Sorceress Girl is probably the worst one. But at the very least, I am able to start off with some big damage. He, of course, puts his shield up and negates a bunch of it, which is something that I should have prepared for and been willing to wait and see what attack he's going to do and use my Quintessence and my Big Burst more appropriately, but it doesn't matter. We're going to recover here and get some big damage in the corner. I'm doing my best to interrupt him from doing these casts, but it's a lot harder and not really wise to do so. Here you see me swap in and get hit with the shield again. Kinda hard to see what's going on when there's all the fireballs on the screen, all the effects. But I'm doing my best to both avoid damage and kill him at the same time. I don't want to lose my first life here. I'd rather reserve my first life for the St. Joan fight, if at all possible, because I'll be very kamikaze on the Joan fight and trying to kill her as quickly as possible. But you will see me get incredibly low. Incredibly low. But luckily, he did die before I lost that life. Some decent stuff on offer, but I'd rather sell off and get some money. I don't want Ifrit, and I don't want Balance Skulls. Now here you'll see I am used to this room at the very least. I do know that enemies will spawn behind me, so rather than quickly dash off and then have to run all the way back, I waited to get rid of the spawns. Predator's cooldown reduction from Broken Mana Engine and the Manatech Inscription coming in very handy here. I'm able to use a skill on each group of enemies. That's kind of what I want, is to have one skill per batch of enemies to try and get through these situations as quickly as possible. If I can press one button to wipe out a group of enemies, that's fine. And there you see that large orb caster guy, that orb chasing me. Oh, Thieves' Blacksteel Dagger. Yes, we don't really need money that much anymore. The build is kind of coming together, and the shop just won't have that many good items to offer me anymore. Thieves' Blacksteel Dagger, in my opinion, the best item in the game, bar none. It works for power builds, it works for speed builds, it works for balance builds. It is a stacking 2% crit that goes up to 20 times as long as you're persistently hitting enemies, which means 40% critical effect chance while you're wailing your way through enemies like Predator does. And on top of that, in the shop, we have the Hunter's Wooden Longbow, which increases critical damage by 50%. Now that we've got Thieves' Blacksteel Dagger, that crit synergy is massive. And me getting rid of Mage's Necklace, that's like my only magic item left. Controversial pick at the time when I made it. I was thinking to myself, is that gonna bite me in the ass? But this right here, this decision to run away and not wait for enemy spawns bit me more. But thankfully, the big charger guy just threw himself over the cliff and dealt with himself. I didn't have to worry about it. But that's what I mean about getting used to spawn areas. And here you see another orb caster. I briefly started talking about it before. You'll see me use Shadow Knights to get rid of these big priesty, clericy looking dudes that summon orbs, because they are a pretty big issue. And also this right here, you'll probably see me maybe use my Shadow Knights to get rid of those large urn looking things that cause the shields on a nearby enemy. Very annoying. This right here, this assassin was being annoying too. Thankfully, Predator is doing so much damage and has... Look at the carry that Necromancy is doing on these guys. He carried him across the screen. But yes, luckily Predator does enough damage that he can destroy those big pots. Ah, the room with 4 of them, yes. He can do enough damage to destroy them pretty quickly and effectively. Unfortunately, I don't have a skill for this one right here, but Little Bone is still doing enough damage to break through it. Activate Shadow Knights. Break through. Shadow Knights has a big enough hitbox that it actually hit the bottom right pot urn thingy for me. So if you have the option, I recommend using your horizontal quintessences if they can help do two things at once. And up here we get slowed down a bit. I don't want to use my skill on this thing, I really don't. Instead, I end up swapping over into Skul, figuring, you know what, I'll just swap back into Predator and get the big damage buff and deal with this big guy after it's broken. And it worked out, thankfully. Elemental's Blessing, not a magic run. Thank you, game, for trying to give me it at the very end, but no. You can see me trying my best to rush along. Up we go. At this point, right now, as I'm recording this post-commentary, the devs have put out a patch that has actually buffed physical items universally across the board, so it's kind of sad that I got this run basically a night or two before that patch. I'll have to go back and see if I can redo this run with the update, now that there's even more damage potential for this kind of build. But with the St. Joan fight, I'm rambling. The focus here is to break the two side orb thingies as soon as possible, and you can see me just using my quintessence, using my skills, nuking it down as quickly as possible. I don't care about the adds that spawn. My focus is to get to this phase as soon as possible, and then swap into Predator up here while she's in the center of the screen, and try and kill her ASAP. Whenever Predator runs out of skills, I'm doing swaps back into Skul. That way I can go back into Predator and reset his buff. And there you see me not caring a little bit about that large AoE explosion. I want to nuke her down quickly. I'm actually amazed that I didn't die. I normally save and reserve my first life if possible for that fight, because I'm aware that I might die just being overly reckless and kamikaze trying to kill these boss fights as soon as possible. What is life if my time is slow, you know? What's the point in having extra life if you haven't done it quickly? Also, the reward for the St. Joan fight was the Raven Monarch's Feather, which has been changed to being a magic item instead of physical. Not sure why that is, but of course I'm going to sell that ASAP and get more money because we get one more shop. Grab the food. I almost always grab food buffs. Quick rerolls on the shop. Nothing I want there. Not surprising. I've got most of the items that I would want anyway. I think there's only one axe left. The Giant's Axe would be the only thing that I would consider taking at this point, just to get that extra boost of physical. But I mean, otherwise, it's not going to make the most dramatic of differences at this point in the run. We're just looking to get into the hero fight and clean this up nice and quickly. You can see me here throwing out big damage with Predator. I'm trying to save skills to use on the extra ones that spawn after I get to the end of the room, using Shadow Knights. Get these guys out of the way. I'd rather not waste time on the ads and get into the fight quickly. I won't have Shadow Knights immediately, but I'll have it. As long as I have it for at least 2 phases of this fight, then I'm okay with it. And let's begin. You'll see more of that kamikaze nature on display as I face tank the hero. Not caring a little bit about the damage he's going to do to me. Oh, what's that? You're hurting me? I don't care. You're doing this big AoE attack? I don't care. Little Skul is going to get in here. He's going to hit you and hurt you. You can see my Shadow Knight's coming off cooldown. I'm activating it here, forcing the next phase as quickly as possible. Grabbing all the little mana tech gadgets around the room to reset Predator's cooldowns, and then quickly get back into Predator with that debuff on the hero, and start bullying him as much as possible. He's doing his big sword attacks. I don't care. I really don't care. I'm just spamming him down. There is no grand strategy here that I can tell you. I am just cleaving. With the help of Thieves' Blacksteel Dagger, you can see that number 40 in the bottom corner where my buffs are at times. My crit is at 40% pretty consistently, with that extra 50% from the Huntsman's Bow. you can see a lot of crits coming out of Predator, and down he goes. A lot of crits. The third fight's about to start. We do have Shadow Knights to make quick work of it. I want to preemptively thank you all for watching. Over time, you might see more speedrun commentary videos from me on the channel. And I hope that this was either informative or useful. You can see that he grabbed me twice and ruined some of my potential burst damage. But that doesn't matter. We quickly finish it off. Down he goes. And that'll be that. Jump out the door. Too many dashes there. I only should have done one. 29-13. There you go, guys. But with all of that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed. It's a different style of video, but one I've done before. Don't worry, the regular videos will continue. I just wanted to get this out because I was proud of it, and I think it's pretty neat. And anyone who's interested in speedrunning, whether it be strategies or ideas behind it, feel free to talk about it, share about it, you know, let me know what your experiences are, what's your best times. Anyway, I gotta get out of here. I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.